Hello, 6th grade. This is Chapter 5, Lesson 5.1. Please make sure you have this copied down in the red box and make sure you have the yellow words highlighted. So please press pause and write this down. Please also make sure you have the correct heading at the top of your page. By the end of today's lesson, you should be able to learn or know how to evaluate algebraic expressions given the values of their variables. Okay, this is the first, I would say, the beginning part of algebra, so you do need to know all of this. Once you have this written down, I would like you to copy this down, this thing that I just put in here. Let's do this really quick. Yeah, please make sure you copy all of this down. You don't need this, but you do need this. So please label the terms, the coefficient, the variable, and the constant. Okay, you need to have all of this information down right here, right here, right here. Please make sure you draw the numbers as well, and the lines, and this. Okay. So make sure you have this written down. All right, then we're going to the next page. Maybe we can just explain it here. All right, so what does this mean? So right now we are talking about an expression. There's two different things. There's something called an expression. All right, and this is what we are talking here, expression, and then we have something called an equation, okay? An equation, well, the first four letters of that means equal sign. So an equation will have an equal sign. An expression is just some terms put together, and see if you can simplify. What exactly is a term? Anything inside of an expression that is separated by a addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division would be an expression. So this right here is a term, and then this right here is a term. All right, let me give you another example of some terms. This is a term, right? Because they're separated by an addition sign. Here's another example. This is a term, this is a term, this is a term, because they're all separated by those addition signs, okay? I hope that kind of makes sense. So a term is pretty much every single section in an expression that is separated by an addition sign, subtraction sign, multiplication, addition and subtraction, okay? Now, a variable is a letter, or is something we don't know, basically. It changes. A variable is something that changes. We usually represent this with the letter X. So we don't use multiplication sign of the letter X anymore. We use a variable. Okay, so a variable was probably going to be a letter. You're going to start seeing expressions like 3a plus b. So that would be a variable, and then that would be a variable. It's something we don't know. It's something that changes. Something that doesn't change is called a constant. Constants stay the same. No matter what happens to the entire expression, constants will always stay the same. They're usually a whole number or a fraction that is all by itself, right? It's not near this other one, okay? And last but not least, we have the coefficient. So the first part of this word is coefficient. Think of the word like co-pilot, co-captain, all right? These are going to be numbers next to your variable. That is how we know they are a coefficient, okay? So we'll go through some practice problems. We're going to put them all together, and then hopefully it is going to make sense. All right, let's put this all together. Here we go. Here is your first example. I would like you to write this down. So please write down this question, 5x plus 13. And then off to the side underneath it, I want you to write down these words because we are going to have to describe them, okay? What is my term? What is my coefficient? And what is my constant? So if we remember from what we just said, 5x is a term, and then 13 is a term. My coefficient in this problem is going to be the number 5, and my constant in this problem is going to be the number 13. Okay, pretty simple. We're keeping it easy for the first part, and then we're going to take it up a notch, okay? All right, here we go. Let's try another one. I want you to write down this problem, please. So if I'm moving a little bit too fast, please make sure you press pause, copy it down so that you have this for your notes. 2z squared plus y plus 3, okay? So we got to label our terms. Well, we know that every single section that is separated by a addition sign or subtraction sign is going to be a term. So we have 2z squared, that's one term. We have y is one term. And then we have the number 3 as one term. All right. Now, we have two coefficients in this problem. There is a trick, I guess I call it a secret or invisible number. Our first coefficient that I see right here is the number 2. And then our next coefficient is technically, I'm going to ask you, how many letter y's do we have right there? We have one letter y. So your other coefficient is the number 1. This is the only other number that's probably ever going to be invisible. It's probably the number 1. Okay, so it's going to make more sense once we start doing a little bit more algebra. All right, and let's move on. And last but not least, we have a constant, a number that does not change. It stays the same. It's just going to be the number 3. All right, that's it. That's pretty much it for this first part of the lesson. Let's try a few other problems and see if we can figure it out. So please write down this problem, and we are going to label our terms. We are going to label our coefficients, and then we are going to label our constants. Okay, so what number are our terms? We have 12, that's one term. Then we have 10c, that is our other term. What coefficients do we have? Well, we have the number 10, that's the only coefficient we have. And last but not least, what term do we have? We have the number 12, that is our term. All right, let's try another one. Here we go. Let's see what the words are. Identify the terms, coefficients. All right. They're not asking us to solve anything. So let's label the words again. We have what are our terms, what are our coefficients, all right, and then what are our constants. So let's see what we have. What terms do we have? Well, we have the first one, which is 15. We have 3w, and then we have 1/2, okay? What coefficients do we have? Well, we have only the number 3, so that's our only coefficient. And then last but not least, what are our constants? Oops. We have the number 15 is one of our constants, and here's another one, is 1/2 is another constant. All right, good job. Let's continue on. Last but not least, let's do this one. Let's label our terms. Let's label our coefficients. And then let's label our constants. All right, what terms do we have? We have z squared, and then we have the number 9z. We have, what are our coefficients? Well, I see the number 9, okay? And we do have an invisible number in here. What number do we have? We have the number 1, all right? Because we have one of these. So that would be 1. And then what are our constants? We have no constants, so there's nothing to put there. No constants. All right, good job. Now, I want you guys to write down another title. I want you to write this down. Writing algebraic. Let me put this. There we go. That's easier. So please write down this title. Writing algebraic expressions using exponents. Please make sure you make this title big so you can see it, because this is another important part of this lesson. This lesson does have 3 different parts, like 3 parts put together into one. So it is a little bit longer lesson, but please don't stress out about it. It's going to be very easy once we figure it out, okay? So writing algebraic expressions using exponents. Now, if we remember what exactly an exponent was, we would have something like this. This would be our base. Oops, this would be our base number, and then this would be our exponent. And what was this telling me? This is telling me that I have 2 of these, okay? So a good example would be like this. If I had 3 to the 2nd power, this is not, let me say this is not 3 times 2. I'll say this again. This is not 3 times 2. What it is telling me I have 2 of these. So I have 3 times 3. That's exactly what I have, okay? So with that in mind, let's take a look at this problem and let's see. How many of the letter D do I have? So let's first of all copy this question down, please. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So make sure you write that down. And then I'm going to ask you to put the letter D. And then how many of them do I have? I have 4 of them. So that is D to the 4th power. All right, let's try another one. Here we go. Please copy this question down. Now, you might be like, well, I don't know what to do with this one. It's not difficult. We just got to follow through with the rules. So, how many of the letter H do I have? Well, I have the letter H, and how many of them do I have? I have 3 of them, and then this just drops down. So I have 1.5 H to the 3rd power. All right. So let's try to put a few more of these together. This part was pretty easy. Let's do some examples, and then we'll move on to part number 2. So here we go again. Please copy this question down. And then we're going to have to put this into exponent form. How many of the letter J do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this would be J to the 6th power. Good job. Let's move on to the next one. Here we go. Let's copy this question down, please. So we have, I'm going to drop down this 9. And how many of the letter K do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 9K to the 5th power. So 9K to the 5th power. All right. And was that the last one? That was the last one. All right, perfect. So that was part 2 of this lesson. Now we're just going to move on to part 3. We're going to put all of these together and see if we can solve some of these expressions and algebraic expressions as well. All right. Here we go. So here's another title that I do want you to write down. It says evaluating algebraic expressions. So please copy that down. Evaluating algebraic expressions. Now, what exactly does evaluate mean? Basically, you are trying to substitute some information. A good example is if I'm not at school, there would be a substitute teacher, right? The teacher was substituted. Somebody took that place. So we have this problem right here. I want you to write this down, the letter K plus 10. And then over here it says K is equal to 25. What are they asking you to do? So they want you to substitute the letter K with that number 25. So if we write this down, this is the correct way I want you guys to memorize on how to do this. You're going to put a parenthesis, and then instead of putting the letter K, we're going to substitute it with this. So what does K equal? K is equal to 25, and then rewrite the rest of the problem. So plus 10. Now, can we evaluate? Can we see if we can figure out this problem? Yes, we can. What is 25 plus 10? And that is going to give you 35. All right, let's see if we can evaluate another problem. So here we go. I want you to write this down. I want you to write down 4 times n. By the way, if you did not know, that little dot, that means multiplication, okay? So if you didn't know, that dot means multiplication. All right, so I want you to write 4 times n, and then I want you to write 4n is equal to 12. So what is this going to look like? You're going to write down the number 4. You're going to write a multiplication sign. Then I want you to put a parenthesis like this. And then inside the parenthesis, I want you to put where it says, right, we have n. I want you to replace the letter n with the number 12, like this. Now, another way you might see this problem, which you are going to see it very shortly, is like this. 4 parenthesis 12. When you see parentheses, you're probably going to think multiplication. And if you don't see a sign, it probably means it's because it's invisible. So that means that's an invisible multiplication problem. So how do we multiply this? 4 times 12, if you don't know it by heart. Let's do it like this. Let's see. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 1 is 4. So we evaluated it, and we figured out that the answer is 48. All right, let's see if we can put a few more of these together. Let's see if we can solve. So here we go. Here's another one. It says like this. Let's write it down. 24 plus c when c is equal to 9. So what should I see? How should you write this problem down? I should see 24 plus, then I should see parentheses. I don't want you to put just the number 9. I want you to put parentheses, and inside the parentheses, I want you to put the number 9 like this. All right, let's add it together. What is 24 plus 9? Well, let's see. I know 24 plus 10 is 34. And if I just take 1 away, right? 1 away from 10, that makes me 9. So 34, take away 1, you are at 33. All right, let's try another one. Here we go. We have d minus 17 is when d is equal to 30. So let's write this down. We have parenthesis. Inside the parenthesis, we're going to put 30. And then we're going to rewrite the rest of the problem, which is minus 17. So 30 minus 17. Well, let's subtract that. Let's see, 30 minus 17. Can't take away from 0, so you have to borrow. That turns into 2. This turns into 10. 10 minus 7 gives me 3. And then 2 minus 1 gives me 1. So we know that after we evaluated this problem, the answer is 13. All right, here we go. Ooh, this time we got a division problem. Let's see how this works. So we have 18 divided by, and then instead of q, we're going to put 1/2 like this. All right, so here's my question, ladies and gentlemen. How do you divide a whole number and a fraction? Well, you're going to put your whole number over 1, right? And then you're going to flip the second fraction, so that's 18 over 1, and then 2 over 1. And then the division sign turns into a multiplication sign. Then how do we multiply fractions? You multiply straight across. I'll do the hard one first. 1 times 1 is 1. And then 18 times 2, if you don't know that by heart, let's show our work. Please make sure you are showing your work. 8 times 2 is 16. Carry the 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So your answer for this is going to be 36 over 1, or another way to write it is just 36, like that. Good job. Now, what happens if you have two variables, right? Two things that we don't know, two numbers that change, two variables. We can figure it out. All you got to do is exactly what I said. Replace the letters with parentheses. So here we go. I want you to write down this problem, the letter n minus m, and then I want you to copy this down as well. When m is equal to 12, so you write that down, m is equal to 12, and then n is equal to 30. All right, so we're going to rewrite this problem down again. We wrote it down the first time. The second time, you're going to replace the letters with parentheses. So we have the letter n. What is n equal to? It says 30. All right. And then it says minus. And what's our letter m? M is 12. So there we go. Now we just got to solve. Let's subtract like we learned. Can I take 2 away from 0? Nope, I have to borrow. So that turns into 2. This turns into 10. 10 minus 2 is 8. And then 2 minus 1 is 1. So you know the answer for this problem is 18. All right, good job. Let's try another one. This one is with division. We got to just do the same work. Write down the problem, a divided by b. So a divided by b. And then we're going to write down a is equal to 16. And then b is equal to 2 over 3. All right, let's rewrite the problem one more time. And instead of the letter a, I'm going to put the number 16, divide sign. And then instead of the letter b, I'm going to put 2 over 3. Now, let's remind ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, how do we divide fractions? Well, first, we need to turn this into a fraction, right? So put it over 1. And then we're going to flip the second fraction, correct? So that's 16 over 1. This turns into a multiplication sign. And then you have 3 over 2. I can multiply or I can try and divide first. So let's do that first. Let's try and simplify. So I know that 16 and 2 can be simplified. What can go into 16 and 2? Well, I know 2, so I'm going to divide this by 2. That gives me 1. And then 16 divided by 2, that's going to give me 8. So now we're just going to multiply straight across. I know 1 times 1 is 1. And then 8 times 3 is going to give me 24. And another way to write 24 over 1 is just 24, like that. Good job. Let's try a few more of these problems. We're going to put them all together. This time we're going to use some multiplication. So here we go. We have 3x minus 14. So what is this going to look like? Please write down 3x minus 14. then I want you to write down x is equal to 5. So there's a reason why I asked you guys to put down your parentheses, because if you put down, right, we drop down our 3, and instead of x, we put our 5, it's just going to be like this, 35, and that's not correct. So remember, instead of x, we're going to put parentheses, and what is our x equal to? It's going to be 5 minus 14. Now, if you're looking at this, you're like, Mr. Grew, there's no sign here. Like, what does that mean? That means multiplication. Remember, parentheses and invisible sign, that means multiplication. So we're going to do this. I like to call this rainbow, and I'll explain why a little bit later. So this means multiplication. So 3 times 5 gives us what? 15. And then we're going to do 15 minus 14, and that gives you 1. All right, let's try another one. See if we can put it into a little bit more difficult questions. All right, so please write down this question. We have n to the second power plus 8.5. So step 1, you wrote down the original problem. Step 2, we're going to plug in some of our numbers. We're going to try and evaluate. Instead of the letter n, we are going to put, right, because it says n is equal to 2. This still stays. That's squared. Plus 8.5. All right. Now, this is, again, remember, this is not 2 times 2. It actually means I have 2 of these. So lucky for us, it's actually 2 times 2, which gives you 4. And then bring down the rest of it, plus 8.5. All right, now let's just add it. How do we add decimals again? You have to line up the decimals. So you have 8.5 plus 4, right? So let's add it up. 5 plus 0 is 5, and 8 plus 4 is 12. Drop your decimal, and our answer for this problem is 12.5. All right, let's try a few more. These are the last ones, and then we are done with today's lesson, okay? So it says, all right, y is equal to 6. So when we start writing these problems, I just want you to remember to write down y is equal to 6. So let's plug this in, one right here. So we have 5y plus 1. Remember, that's step 1. Step 2, we are going to replace the y with a parenthesis. So we have 5 parenthesis 6 plus 1. So what operation is invisible again over here? That's going to be multiplication. So that's 5 times 6. What's 5 times 6? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So that's 30. And then 30 plus 1 gives you 31. Good job. Let's try another one. Let's try the one right below it. So we know, again, our evaluation is y is equal to 6. So we have y squared minus 7. And instead of the y, we're going to put parentheses. We're going to plug in 6. Drop that 2. Minus 7. Remember, this means I have 2 6's. So that's actually 6 times 6, which gives you 36, and then 36 minus 7. Let's just count backwards. So 36, we got 35, 34, 33, 32, 31, 30, 29. So the answer for this one is 29. All right, 2 more, and then we are done for today's lesson. Let's do this one right here. So here we go. We have 30 minus 24 divided by y. Now, at first, you're probably thinking, okay, so step 1, we wrote it down. Step 2, let's plug in our numbers. 30 minus 24 divided by, remember we said y is equal to 6. Now, here's my question, ladies and gentlemen. Do we do division first, or do we do our subtraction first? Don't get confused on that. Remember the rules that we learned. PEMDAS. Parentheses first, exponents first, second, then multiplication and division from left to right, and then addition and subtraction from left to right, okay? So we got to divide first, which means 24 divided by 6 actually gives you, what is that? 4, bring down your subtraction sign, minus, and then you have 30. So what is 30 minus 4? 29, 28, 27, 26. So 30 minus 4 is 26. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this was today's lesson. I know it was a long one, but I want you guys to try your best. Make sure you pay attention, and then try your best on your homework. I'll see you.